The ceramic cup trembled in his weathered hands, and for the first time in 3 years, Marcus Chen felt his carefully constructed walls begin to crack. It wasn't the coffee that undid him, it was the way she'd placed the napkin beside it, folded into a perfect crane, just like Sarah used to do. Marcus had stopped believing in signs from the universe the day his wife died. Cancer had stolen her slowly, methodically, leaving him with nothing but photographs and the suffocating silence of their too-empty house. For 3 years, he'd moved through life like a ghost himself, going through motions he no longer understood, performing a routine that had lost all meaning. The diner was unremarkable, one of those places that dotted every American highway, promising comfort food and mediocre coffee. He'd only stopped because the rain had become blinding, sheets of water transforming the interstate into a dark river. His dashboard clock read 2:47 a.m. The overnight shift, driving medical supplies across state lines, was supposed to keep him busy. Busy meant not thinking, not remembering, not feeling the crushing weight of everything he'd lost. The bell above the door chimed as he entered, and the warmth inside immediately fogged his glasses. He removed them, wiping them on his shirt, and that's when he saw her. She stood behind the counter, late 20s perhaps, with kind eyes that seemed to hold their own stories of loss. Her name tag read, Elena, and she smiled at him, not the plastic, service industry smile he'd grown accustomed to, but something genuine. Something that reached her eyes. "Rough night?" she asked, already reaching for the coffee pot. Marcus nodded, sliding onto a stool at the counter. "Long drive. Just coffee, or can I get you something to eat? The pie's actually good here. I made it myself. Just coffee is fine." But when she placed the cup in front of him, Marcus froze. Beside it lay a napkin, folded with precise, delicate movements into the shape of a crane. His breath caught in his throat. "Did you?" he started, then stopped, unsure how to form the question without sounding insane. Elena noticed his stare. "Oh, the origami. It's silly, I know. A habit from my grandmother. She used to say that every crane carries a wish, and everyone who walks through that door deserves at least one good wish." Sarah had said almost the exact same thing. She'd learned origami from a Japanese exchange student in college and had folded cranes obsessively, leaving them in his lunch bag, on his pillow, tucked into his coat pockets. After she died, he'd found them everywhere, like tiny paper ghosts haunting every corner of their life together. "My wife used to do that," Marcus heard himself say, surprised by the words leaving his mouth. He never talked about Sarah. Not to anyone. Elena's expression softened. "Used to. She died 3 years ago. I'm sorry." And the way she said it, without pity, without the awkward discomfort most people carried when discussing death, made something in his chest loosen. The diner was empty except for them. Outside, the rain continued its relentless assault on the windows. Elena poured herself a cup of coffee and leaned against the counter. "You want to tell me about her?" Marcus should have said no. Should have finished his coffee and left. But something about this stranger with her grandmother's wisdom and her quiet understanding made him want to speak. So he did. He told her about Sarah's laugh, how it could fill a room like music. About her terrible singing voice and how she'd belt out show tunes anyway while cooking dinner. About the garden she'd maintained with religious devotion, and how he'd let it die because he couldn't bear to touch the things she'd loved. About the emptiness that had consumed him, how he'd taken this job just to stay in motion, as if he could outrun his grief by never stopping. Elena listened without interrupting, her eyes never leaving his face. When he finally fell silent, she refilled his cup. "My grandmother raised me," Elena said quietly. "My parents died in a car accident when I was 6. I don't remember them much, but I remember the grief on my grandmother's face. It never fully went away, but you know what she told me. She said grief isn't the absence of love, it's love with nowhere to go. And the only way to honor that love is to find somewhere to put it again." Marcus felt tears threatening for the first time in years. "I don't know how. Start small." Elena pulled out a piece of paper from under the counter, the guest check, and began folding. Her fingers moved with practiced precision, creating creases and corners, transforming the ordinary into something beautiful. "My grandmother taught me this when I was drowning in my own sadness. She said that every time you create something, even something tiny, you're proving that beauty can exist alongside pain." She handed him the completed crane. "Keep it. Consider it a wish from a stranger who thinks you deserve one. Marcus took the paper bird, its wings perfectly symmetrical, and something shifted inside him. Not healed, not fixed, but changed. This woman, this stranger in a forgotten diner on a rain-soaked highway, had somehow reached through his carefully maintained numbness and touched something he'd thought was dead. "Why are you so kind to people?" he asked. "At 3 a.m. in a place like this, you could just pour coffee and collect your paycheck." Alina's smile was sad and knowing. "Because someone was kind to me when I needed it most. And because every person who walks through that door is carrying something. Maybe not as heavy as what you're carrying, but something. The least I can do is make sure they know someone sees them." They talked for another hour. Elena shared stories about her grandmother, about learning to find joy in small things, the perfect rise of dough, the way morning light hit the diner windows, the satisfaction of making someone's day slightly less difficult. Marcus found himself laughing, actually laughing, at her story about a trucker who'd proposed to her at least once a week for the past year. When the rain finally began to ease, Marcus realized he didn't want to leave. This diner, this moment, had become a pocket of warmth in the cold expanse of his life. "I should get back on the road," he said reluctantly. Elena nodded and rang up his bill. When he looked at the total, it read, "No charge." Sometimes coffee and conversation are exactly what the soul ordered. "I can't let you. You can, and you will. But promise me something." She met his eyes. "Promise me you'll plant something. Doesn't matter what. A flower, a tree, a vegetable. Something that needs you. Your wife's garden, it died because gardens need someone to care for them. But that means you have the power to make things grow again." Marcus left the diner with 3 paper cranes Elena had folded while they talked, and a permission he hadn't known he was seeking. Permission to honor Sarah not through preservation of pain, but through cultivation of new life. 6 months later, Marcus returned to the diner. The roses in his truck bed, deep red, Sarah's favorite, were destined for the garden he'd begun rebuilding. But first, he wanted Elena to see them. Wanted to thank the stranger who'd served him coffee and, in doing so, had served him grace. The diner looked different in daylight, smaller somehow. The woman at the counter wasn't Elena. "Can I help you?" she asked. "I'm looking for Elena. She worked the night shift." The woman's face fell. "Oh honey, Elena passed away 4 months ago. Heart condition. None of us even knew she was sick." Marcus felt the world tilt. "But she seemed so. She was. Right up until the end." The woman's eyes glistened. "Left instructions about her funeral, though. Said she wanted everyone to have this." She handed him a paper crane. Marcus stood in the parking lot, surrounded by roses and holding a crane made by hands that no longer existed, and finally understood. Elena hadn't been the mirror of his late wife. She'd been the answer to the question his grief had been asking: "What do I do with all this love?" You give it away. To strangers in diners. To gardens that need tending. To a world that desperately needs more people who fold wishes into napkins at 3 a.m. That afternoon, Marcus planted roses at Elena's grave. And every year since, he's returned to that diner on the anniversary of that rain-soaked night, where he sits at the counter and teaches anyone who'll listen how to fold paper cranes. Because kindness isn't diminished when shared, it multiplies. And love, real love, never really dies. It just finds new hands to hold, new hearts to fill, new ways to bloom.